What's up, guys? Welcome to episode 4 of the TRIF3CTA Sports Podcast. We have a special guest with us today, Austin Monet. He's one of our childhood and high school friends. We brought him on today for a very special event geared toward college basketball. But before we get into college basketball, we also are going to get into some big, heavy NFL free agency news and NFL news in general. So it's been a big week in sports. We're going to try to cover it all. So we're bound to have a really good show today. But first, I'm going to let Coop take it away.
So sports teams across the globe right now have been showing support for the Ukraine during the ongoing Russian invasion. We've seen it, through recent weeks. Notable athletes from both countries have spoken out, condemning the war, taking a stand against Russia's actions. And last week, after the UK government issued sanctions against several Russian oligarchs, we saw more actions take place within the sports world. In soccer, the Chelsea Football Club owner Roman Abramovich was disqualified as the club's director and handed over all control to the club's trustees. In Formula One, Haas driver Nikita Mazepin was fired after his father and title sponsor were included on the list of sanctions from the EU. And then additionally, WNBA star Brittany Griner has been detained in Russia for more than a month now after allegedly trying to fly with illegal substances. There's very few details about her situation. Not much is known about what's going on there. But we definitely hope for a quick resolution that sees her safely return to the U.S. soon. It's really just a reminder that sports are a lot bigger than just games, and athletes are a lot more than just players. So I think it's encouraging to see so many leagues and teams taking a united position during such a difficult time.
Thank you, Coop. Before we get going, a little quick update on the MLB Lockout. We have obviously ended the lockout. Baseball season has started. Opening day is going to be moved to April 7th, and the MLB plans to play a full 162-game schedule. Spring training camps open March 11th with voluntary report dates of March 13th. As the mandatory date to report to spring training. We're going to start spring training games on March 17th. Free agency is to begin immediately. Obviously today, once the CBA is ratified. Today there were some baseball trades that came to fruition. Sonny Gray was traded to the Minnesota Twins. The Reds, again, for some reason, decided, we don't need a good pitcher. We're just going to get rid of him for an 18-year-old kid who may turn out to be a really good pitcher, but, I want to win now and not necessarily in, 5 years. But the playoffs are expanding to 12 teams beginning this season. The National League did adopt the designated hitter. The CBT expected to begin at $230 million and grow to $244 million over the course of the new collective bargaining agreement. So there was a lot of gaps to fill. Obviously, the players and the owners came to an agreement. I did see also where they're changing the rule on the starting with a runner at second base in extra innings, which I'm totally cool with. I thought that was stupid anyway. But that's a really quick Yeah.
Oh,
that's a really quick.
Let me jump in here.
Go ahead, Dave.
Let me jump in. All right. So there's two things that I want to talk about that I saw. First, we got a lottery now. So there's going to be a 6-team lottery, and that's going to be an anti-tanking kind of rule that they've implemented. Mm-hmm. And then the second one, which I think is huge, the Chris Bryant rule is what I'm going to call it, is if a player gets awarded a full year service, if they finish within the top 2 in Rookie of the Year voting. So gone are the days of hiding your prospects, because even if they come up for 6 months and they kill it, they're going to waste that first year for those clubs. So I think that's going to be really good for those young prospects.
Yeah, that's awesome. The lottery is really intriguing to me for some reason. We talked about it on one of our MLB updates episodes a few weeks back. I thought that was a great idea at that point, and now that it's come to fruition, I think that's a really cool way of keeping baseball competitive and forcing owners to be competitive throughout the season and not kind of give up at the All-Star break and then, start cranking down and, starting to rebuild from there. It makes baseball more fun to watch, which is kind of what we're here to do anyway. We're losing fans every day. And at this point, it's really hard for somebody that doesn't really watch baseball to pick up the remote and turn it to the MLB network, or, you can barely watch half the teams anyway because of blackout. So that's another issue they need to fix. But there's your update on the MLB lockout. From here, we got a lot to talk about today. We got the NFL, and then we got the NCAA tournament. The brackets came out at 6:00. We are recording this at exactly 8:29 p.m. on Sunday afternoon. We have a lot of things to cover, so we're going to go ahead and get into some NFL news before we get to the brackets. Aaron Rodgers, fellas, what y'all think? Aaron Rodgers back with the Green Bay Packers. I don't know if he signed a deal yet for sure, but the deal is reported. What is it? $200 million for 4 years?
Yeah.
I believe I called this last week. I think my exact words were Rodgers signs an extended deal and retires a Packer, and that's what it looks like is going to happen. It puts them in the same spot they were. They've won 13 games 2 years in a row. They're going to be in the top, probably 3 teams in the NFC that are looking at a Super Bowl chance. So I don't think much changes. I don't think they have a lot of flexibility to do much around him. They're going to lose a couple pieces, but they also kept a couple in him and Devontae Adams. So
yeah, and I think
it's kind of status quo for the Packers.
I think what they said though is that they're going to try and make a lot of that, because I think it said 200 mil is what the number is, but I think they're saying a lot of that's just going to be roster bonus, so they can have some more cap to work with. So it's going to be interesting to see what the numbers really end up being. Because, as soon as he said he was coming back, Devontae Adams got slapped with that tag. So it's going to be interesting.
Yeah. I think the biggest impact isn't for the Packers, it's for the Broncos. Because they just looked absolutely terrible in the resources, the coaching hires. I mean, everything they've done over the past 2 years, building this oasis for Aaron Rodgers to come thrive in. And, he just said no.
He said, nah, bro, I'm good. The funny thing about it was whenever, the Aaron Rodgers news broke, it wasn't a couple hours before the Russell Wilson news came out that, Russell Wilson is going to be traded or signed with the Broncos.
It couldn't have been automatically clear that it was Plan B. It couldn't have been.
Obviously, that was a Plan B, and everybody's like, "Oh, maybe that may be who they're going after." All no, it's not. You're dumb if you were looking for a quarterback and didn't try to contact Aaron Rodgers. That's just bottom line.
Can we just talk about what the Broncos gave up for Russell Wilson?
Oh my gosh,
too much in my opinion.
Noah Fant, Shelby Harris, 2 firsts, 2 seconds, and a 5th for Wilson, and I think they got like a 5th back too or something like that. It's like, this guy's never won an MVP vote.
He wasn't even really good last year. He wasn't bad, but he wasn't great.
Yeah,
no. The thing on Russell Wilson is he's won a Super Bowl, right?
Yeah,
but he won the Peyton Manning Super Bowl. That was the defense won that Super Bowl. He had Bobby Wagner in his prime, the Legion of Boom back there. Like, that was not Russell Wilson's Super Bowl win. No. Then he goes back, and they lose the game because he passes instead of running the ball. The reason they lost the game is because they put it in Russell Wilson's hands, essentially.
Yeah.
Maybe you can look at it, it should have been in Marshawn's, but because it wasn't, it was in Russ's, and he throws a pick to end the game. So I don't get the asking price at all. I think it's absolutely ridiculous. The Seahawks look amazing in this deal. And even if you're going to give up the draft assets, trade away the defensive players, you're giving up your number 2 pass catcher, who's 23 years old?
Dude's
probably easily a top 10 tight end.
And look what he did in Seattle with 2 stud wide receivers. Nothing. So I don't know why they think that it's going to do him any good in Denver.
Yeah, Drew Lock is garbage anyway. But Noah Fant, obviously, I would say top 3, top 5 at worst, tight end in the league in terms of just pure raw talent and availability. The dude's always in the game. He's never really hurt. So you're always going to have somebody in your lineup every week to help out your quarterback. What the Seahawks have to understand now is they got to figure out who's going to play quarterback for them. I don't think it's Drew Lock, and I don't think it's Geno Smith.
Well, I think they got the assets to go get a guy now.
They will release Bobby Wagner. Don't understand that either. I'm sure that's cap space, and he's toward the end of his career. But the dude is an All-Pro. He's a career All-Pro. He's always in the All-Pro list. Multiple-time Pro Bowl linebacker.
Maybe if there was a guy that just got found not guilty on a whole bunch of criminal charges.
Yep.
Maybe.
So let's talk about that now. Deshaun Watson, what do y'all think? Is he going to play football in 2022 on a team? If so, what team do you think he'll play?
Somebody will back up the bank for him. Somebody will overpay. And Carolina, I think, is a team that's said that they'll trade the whole team if they have to get him. So.
Yeah, I agree. Carolina sounds like the hot spot. To me, if Carolina gets him, what do you do with Sam Darnold? He's getting almost $20 million this year. It's guaranteed. Nobody wants him. Nobody's going to take a $20 million Sam Darnold. Do you put that on your bench?
I wouldn't take a $3 Sam Darnold.
but I think the best fit for him is Pittsburgh. I mean, Flores is tied to him in Miami. They have such a good organization. You know, I touched on this last week or maybe the week before, but Pittsburgh is the best organization in football. Not the product they put on the field, but in that front office with that coaching staff, they are just high-quality stand-up individuals. And, you know, not doing what the Bengals did for years, bringing in Pac-Man Jones and anybody that had a criminal record at a discount, but actually bringing somebody in, giving them a second chance with people of positive influence around you. I think that would be the ideal landing spot for Watson.
As a Bengals fan, I would hate to see that happen because I'm always a big Deshaun Watson drafter when it comes to fantasy football because he puts up numbers. He's really, 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 really good at his job. Probably not really, really good at getting massages, but he's really, really good at throwing the football.
Wow.
But whenever if he chooses to go with the Pittsburgh Steelers, it immediately makes them a Super Bowl contender. Immediately. I don't know that if he chooses the Carolina Panthers, if you can make that same statement. But although he probably puts the Carolina Panthers in the playoff conversation.
No, I disagree. The Panthers are nowhere close to winning significant games.
Yeah, because I think if Carolina goes out and gets them, that means McCaffrey's gone. McCaffrey's a Texan. But I think maybe this is where you get a three-way trade in, and this is where Seattle comes in and says, "Hey, we'll take a chance on a Sam Darnold if Carolina eats his contract, and you know they help move some pieces to make the trade work." I mean, I could see because I agree. I don't think Sam Darnold's going to sit on the bench for $20 million. I think they're either cutting him or they're trading him. So.
Yeah.
But you say that you don't agree that he makes them a playoff contender team, but if you think about how the Bengals were built before they drafted Joe Burrow, and this is a guy that was unproven in the NFL, year 2 they make it to the Super Bowl. Now you can say it was a fluke. I think we got lucky a couple times, honestly, but we did sign some free agents. The Carolina Panthers can do the exact same thing. I'm not saying that they will, not saying that it would be cool if they did. But I think if you go out and get a quarterback that you think you feel confident in, they're more willing to go out and spend money and go out and make those moves in order to get there.
Yeah, I mean, I can see that. I think they're losing some big pieces. Hassan Reddick being a free agent, not coming back, really hurts that defense. They've got some young people in the secondary. I don't think the weapons are there, but it's possible. I think Seattle, which they've kind of touched on it here, they're in a gap year. They're not trying to win this season. They're in a loaded division. They've got all these assets in the next couple of years. I mean, they're just trying to find somebody to come in and put on a decent showing, develop those young guys. I think that's part of the reason they cut Wagner as well, just to get some youth, some experience.
And Pete Carroll's been there forever. I don't know how old he is, but I think he's surprisingly older than what you would think. And so who knows how much longer he'll be there. He may say he doesn't want to be a part of a rebuild and move on. So who knows?
Yeah, he's the oldest coach in the league.
Yeah, I think he's in his 70s or something like that. It's something crazy.
Yeah,
he don't look
a good point, Austin, though. I was just about to bring that up. I mean, does Pete Carroll walk away, or do you think maybe it's hey, let's get some new blood in here, and Seattle and him just part ways? I mean, I think it's a good point brought up.
I think it's too late for that to happen, honestly. But it definitely could be something that happens within the next year or so. Keeping the flow on the quarterbacks, Dave.
Don't do it.
What about our boy Carson Wentz, dude? The newest commie, Carson Commie Wentz. This is Carson's
champion.
It's
Super Bowl
Carson's
champion
commies.
Carson Wentz.
Carson commies, Dave. It's Carson's commies. What's your feelings about it, big dog?
First off, if you're telling me that Rodgers was clear they were going to go after Rodgers, then they were going to go after Wilson, you're telling me you're going to go after Carson Wentz third? No, all due respect to the guy, but I mean, there are names out there that I would like. Go get Kirk Cousins back. Go get Deshaun Watson, even if he has a criminal charge against him. I mean, you telling me that Deshaun Watson and Dan Snyder aren't a match made in heaven? I mean, you got two perverts. I mean, that'd be perfect.
Whoa.
Edit that out.
Oh my God.
But, I mean.
I ain't editing that out. That's staying in there.
Oh.
I guarantee
we need a parental advisory button.
I
Due
push
to some sexual content.
I push the explicit button whenever I upload this stuff sometimes.
Dan Snyder
But, like,
send somebody to my front door.
If Dan Snyder or Deshaun Watson are listening to the TRIF3CTA Sports Podcast, we've made it, fellas. We've made it.
Oh.
That's when I hope Penny Hardaway reads mine, because ever since I talked crap about them, they've won like 14 out of 16 games or something.
All right, but real talk, Carson Wentz, not a bad quarterback. You know, his stats aren't that bad. I just don't think the NFC East is in a strange point right now. I mean, are the Eagles good? The Cowboys just traded Amari Cooper. They got to pay Zeke. The Giants are the worst team in the league. So yeah. I just don't know. Go ahead, Austin.
He's an A quarterback on an A team in an A division. So
yeah, we might win a couple of division championships, but I don't think we're going to make it to the second round of the divisional round with them. So I don't know.
Yeah, I don't think it's a good coaching fit either. And I really like Ron Rivera. You know, I've liked him since he was in Carolina. Big fan of his, but he's never had a quarterback step up. You know, he's had great players at certain positions. I feel like he's always developed good pass rushers. He's had good running backs, you know, versatile, but he's not a coach that really builds confidence in a quarterback, and that is exactly what Wentz needs, because the only reason for him not to step up in those moments, 27 touchdowns, 6 picks, those are good numbers. But those moments we talked about earlier on, previous episode, that comes from your coach and the confidence you have in yourself and that they have in you. So it's a miss. $27 million. Garoppolo's 20. So you could have saved $7 million if you traded for him at what I assume is the same asking price, or go get a free agent. You know, I've talked about this offline. I think Jameis Winston is the best quarterback option out there right now. Dude was insane before he got hurt last year. He played a year under Drew Brees, and he's had seasons where he's almost leading the league in pass yards. So I'm excited to see where Jameis lands.
Well, Dave mentioned Amari Cooper. First of all, I would like to just make this statement. Hate me if you want to, but the Dallas Cowboys and Jerry Jones strike again. I don't understand why you get rid of Amari Cooper and keep Ezekiel Elliott. You're going to get more with Amari Cooper. And especially when you have Zeke, who is in the backfield, who hasn't really done much the last couple of years. Was he one of the best running backs in the NFL recently in the last couple? Yeah, he was. But he's not even close anymore, in my opinion. I've already said my piece about Dak. I'm not going to repeat that. I think he's a solid quarterback. I don't think he's a Super Bowl winning quarterback. And a lot of you guys disagree with me. But I think now especially, let me rephrase that. I don't think he's winning the Super Bowl with the Cowboys. And I don't think Jerry Jones is going to let him. They're not going to win a Super Bowl if Jerry Jones is still. I just don't see it happen. And I explained that why last time. It's not about football for him. It's probably a 30% piece of his puzzle whenever he's, making his decisions. But when you get rid of somebody like Amari Cooper, who has proven himself to be a really good number one receiver for, every team he's played on, you send him to the Browns in that division and let him play with Baker Mayfield. Now, I'll say this, Baker Mayfield probably is a good fit with Amari Cooper, in my opinion. I did see where Jarvis Landry has been granted access to a trade, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, I don't understand that.
I don't either. I don't know. But so y'all think it's good or bad for the Browns? Good or bad? Yes or no? Is Amari Cooper going to work out there?
I think Amari Cooper's a good fit for Baker. I don't think Baker's a good fit for Amari. He's a route running receiver. He's physical. He's going to get open. He's going to give you easy short passes. That's what Baker needs. But Amari Cooper needs a team that can compete, and the Browns aren't it right now. I think this says way more to me about the Cowboys and the position they're in. What they just told me, not only with this trade, but by not trading Zeke, or they may, I don't see it happening, and some of the free agent moves and other people that are available for trade, the Cowboys are taking a year off. This is McCarthy's last year. They want Sean Payton coming in. They cleared $20 million from Cooper leaving. They're keeping Zeke because he's the pass protection back. You know, Dak's had injuries in the past. They can put Miles on Zeke. They can protect Dak and still save Tony Pollard for when Peyton gets there. And everything they're doing is money saving right now, and that's not what a 13-win number 1 seed team does. Like, we thought this was a Super Bowl favorite last year. They are not having an off season of a team trying to go back to the Super Bowl.
They should have. Think they're saving money, but right before we came on, I'm pretty sure they re-signed Michael Gallup, who is coming off of a leg injury, for like $64 million. So
yeah, we mentioned that. Dave mentioned that last week that he was about to get paid.
Why would you trade Cooper, who I think he had a year left on his deal, so they want to cut him because they're going to re-sign him. But I would rather spend $64 million on Cooper than an injured Michael Gallup as my number 2. I don't really understand.
Yeah, Cooper's got 3 years, but they're set up as yearly options. So they could have opted out after next year. There's only a 1-year age difference. I don't know what the upside is on Gallup, but
yeah, it's like they picked Michael Gallup over Amari Cooper. I know Michael Gallup has had some good plays, some good years, but I don't know. I told you guys this last night, or maybe it was a few days before, but I think this starts the clock on Baker officially. I stood up for him. I think it was in our first show on the NFL Awards. But if you haven't watched that, go check out our YouTube channel and give it a watch. But I think Baker, this is his year where he has to prove that he was worth the number 1 pick, or he will be floating around the NFL for the rest of his career. I think they went out and got him his star wide receiver. Hopefully it turns out better than it did with OBJ, but that offense is loaded, and just adding Amari Cooper, the guy has ran out of excuses. So I think this is the year that he has to go do something and win the NFL's toughest division.
Yep.
Yeah. Whenever the Browns were on their come up, they started making these moves, signing all these really good names, drafting Baker Mayfield, Nick Chubb, going and getting Kareem Hunt and OBJ, Jarvis Landry. Those are all big moves that, a team would make if they're trying to win. It's not like the Cowboys, who when you look at them, you're like, they're not trying to win. Or if you look at those teams and you're like, what the hell are they doing? Like that doesn't make sense. Like, it makes me mad especially when a team that I like, or I like to watch, is doing those things, and they're not. You can just tell they're not in it to win it. But the Browns have been. They've been trying for years. They're tired of losing. They've lost for years. They've been in the division with the Bengals. I've watched them. They beat the Bengals like 4 straight games, as a matter of fact. We still can't beat them. But you were right about Baker Mayfield. This is the year where he has to prove himself, or they got to do it. They got to go a different direction, whether that be the draft, going to get, a Jameis Winston or whoever's a free agent on the list next year, if there's any at all. But he has to do something this year or he's done. I think he'll end up, with the Texans or some shitty team like that. But he's not going to be a starter on a contender team, and he'll probably his last 10 years be, if he makes it that long, a backup quarterback for somebody. That's just
Baker does lead the league in one statistic since he came in.
Interceptions.
Yeah, 56.
Hey, I know a guy that did that too, and his name's Peyton Manning. So you can turn it around. All right, real quick, I just want to touch on one guy. Minnesota Vikings and Kirk Cousins just agreed to a 1-year extension. Guaranteed $35 million. Will make up to $40 million and $30 million in 23. So he's got some options there. I think the Vikings are just same thing with the Seahawks, just moving the puck down the ice, and we'll pick it up later. I don't think this is this is just a stalemate move for them.
Yeah, I like Kirk Cousins. I just don't. It doesn't have the wow factor for me. I just don't see him being the guy that leads them to a Super Bowl. And we all know that that's not everybody's goal every single year. But when you make moves and you pay these guys millions of dollars, like Sam Darnold, you have to have that in the back of your mind that, like, this guy may not be the guy that leads us to the Super Bowl. So why am I going to go get a guy like that and pay him like that when I'm going to be stuck with him for 2 or 3 years? And he might not even start. But
I think
like
Cousins
the
is top
Vikings.
10. But there's no better options out there.
And I would say he is top 10 because he has Justin Jefferson and Adam Thielen. I think he's got two guys that help him out tremendously. I mean, I think Thielen's a good slot guy. He's a good route runner.
Mm-hmm.
And Justin Jefferson is just a dynamic playmaker. I think he's a good game manager, but he's got two guys that make him look way better than what he is.
Yeah,
I think
he's consistent. He puts up good numbers. Minnesota's problem is defense. They're 30th in the league last year in yards allowed.
I think Adam Thielen, with a really good quarterback, could put up similar numbers to Cooper Kupp, in my opinion. I don't think he's going to be MVP of the league or anything like that, but I think he could have a role on a team with a big number one receiver out there like Justin Jefferson. He could get those, those checkdowns, those slants on the inside, those skinny posts down the middle, the seam routes. He can get the receptions and then do something after he catches the ball. Now, he's not Cooper Kupp, and I don't think there's anybody else in the league like Cooper Kupp, but he could play that role for a team with a good quarterback.
Yeah, I agree.
100%.
All right, guys.
All right.
So we're going to move on to –
Whoa.
What?
Khalil Mack.
Oh, I forgot about him.
This is a division-changing move. All right, I've been a Khalil Mack fan since he was with the Raiders. I know the numbers don't look great. He's 31. He's got a big contract, 6 sacks in 7 games. And for the first time in his career, he is not the number one pass rusher on his team. The Chargers are going to be nasty rushing the pass with Mack and Bosa on the edges. And you have to be in the division with the quarterbacks in this division. I'm super excited. I told you guys before, I thought the Chargers were the team that didn't make the playoffs, that were a favorite to go to the Super Bowl. And I think now they just may be. I mean, one move doesn't put you all the way up there, but with what they're going to do the rest of the offseason, I think the Chargers could be a Super Bowl favorite.
I mean, that AFC West, holy crap. That is not going to be fun for Patrick Mahomes and Russell Wilson and Derek Carr if he's still there. Like, that is a gauntlet they're going to have to go through out there in LA.
I think people are tired of seeing the Chiefs do so well, and they're selling out. They're trying to find a way to beat Patrick Mahomes year in and year out. And I forgot about Khalil Mack, honestly. It wasn't on the paper that we talked about. But I'm going on the script, fellas.
The script's always moving, Frank. Come on, keep up.
Yeah,
it wasn't written down, but it's all right. I do think Khalil Mack makes that team infinitely better. They do have somebody coming off both sides to make an impact on Patrick Mahomes, and that's how you beat the Chiefs. Is you get him moving and keep him in the pocket, and he's going to make a decision. Half the time that's not a good decision for the Chiefs, and now that's where he gets in trouble and throws interceptions, takes sacks. He's not the greatest at securing the ball because he's used to getting away from everybody all the time. That's how the Bengals end up beating him twice. Is getting to him, making him run around. When he runs around, that's also his biggest strength, is because his receivers can find a way to get open. But you close the gap, make him throw into tight windows. That's how you beat the Chiefs, and you got to get to Patrick Mahomes. That's how you beat him.
Yep. One more quick thing on Mack. The head coach of the Chargers, Brandon Staley, was linebackers coach in Chicago for Mack's first year, 12.5 sacks. So.
Ain't bad.
No, that'll be pretty good. All right, we can't go on until we talk about Tom Brady. I mean, that's I don't. I mean, he just did the Brett Favre. He just pulled the Brett Favre.
This literally happened an hour ago, fellas.
I don't really
I was
understand.
driving the car.
I don't understand the point.
I do. y'all knew if you in the back of your mind you knew this wasn't happening, you're lying to yourself. The guy, listen, I don't think he left in as great of a. He didn't leave on his own terms, in my opinion. I think people were pushing him out. I think the media was pushing him out, saying, "Are you going to retire? Are you going to do this? You're going to do that?" I mean, they didn't even send out a video, for God's sakes. Like, if Tom Brady retires, he's going to have this miraculous career highlight film dedicating everything to him and his career assets and all of his accomplishments. He didn't get it. He's like a tweet or two. And I just had a feeling in my gut it wasn't going to happen. And I just think that Bruce Arians was always in his ear. They might have tried to go get these quarterbacks here and there. They might have went after Aaron Rodgers. And they didn't get him. And they're like, man, listen, Tom, can you give us one more year, buddy? Can you do that for us? Is that in the cards? Would Giselle let you come play for us one more year? And then he's like, yeah, I feel pretty good. Why not? Let's retire at 49 years old. But I bet he plays a couple more years. Honestly, I think he comes back and plays a couple more years because I don't see a guy like that having one of the best statistical years of his career and then just hanging it up. I didn't see it happening. And
Bruce Arians set the asking price on the rights to Tom Brady at 5 first-round picks. After seeing Russell Wilson go for close to that, maybe I'm interested.
The 49ers are going to be the team to watch to go after him, I think, because I know he was linked to go to them to begin with, and he's from the Bay Area, I think, and they've got a lot of draft assets and a lot of players that they could swap. So I think initially when he retired, people thought he might be retiring only to be able to come back to join the 49ers maybe. So I thought it was kind of weird that he announced that he just coming back to Tampa Bay. I thought that was strange.
How funny would it be if he got traded for Jimmy Garoppolo?
Straight up. Oh my God.
Honestly, speechless. I mean, dude's a legend. I feel like he's the only professional athlete you can truly say without a doubt is the greatest of all time.
Yeah, there's no question.
Yeah, there's no argument there.
There's no debate. Even in hockey, Gretzky, and there's always who's the other big guy, Dave? You're a big hockey guy. What's his name?
Mario Lemieux.
Gordie Howe, maybe.
Yeah, Gordie Howe. There's a couple of them up there.
Yeah, there's a bunch at the top, but like, there's one at the top in the NFL. It's Tom Brady. Are there any other NFL players that we need to talk about before we move on to the granddaddy of them all, the NCAA basketball tournament? It's going to be a big year in the NFL, ladies and gentlemen. We're pretty excited about where things going. We are all in the same fantasy. We're in the Bush League. We're in the same fantasy football league, all of us. We do talk a lot of crap to each other.
Frank.
And
no free ads.
4-time champ.
Have I won that league yet? I did once, didn't I?
I came in second 4 times, I think.
I suck at fantasy football.
Makes me so mad.
Coop knows all the stats, so it's not fair. He works from home.
This guy doesn't work. He just looks at football all day.
If y'all haven't noticed, Coop's always the guy that has like the numbers to throw out every time we talk about something else. And I have 2 tabs pulled up on my computer. I have our little podcast brainstorm we have that doesn't have Khalil Mack's name on it. And I have our little video conferencing tool. But
I am an analyst by trade. I have an accounting degree and my job title is analyst. That's what I do. That numbers just make sense. I like them.
Anyway, we're going to move on. The NCAA tournament selection show happened about 3 hours ago at this point. We did a little preview about who we thought was going to miss or make the tournament a couple weeks ago.
And we all missed.
Some of us look like idiots, but I mean, that's part of it. I literally put Memphis in, the crap tier category. They went on a big run. They lost today, but they went and made the NCAA tournament. I think I was right about Michigan. Did Michigan come in?
They made it, didn't they?
Yeah, Michigan made it. Yep.
Yep.
I must have missed that.
11th seed in the South.
Yeah, that's garbage. That's my bracket too. Anyway, so we have a little bit of bracketology review. We're going we've all picked a region. We're going to review the region, make some picks. games to highlight on your brackets, maybe that 12-5 upset or some big upsets that you might need to think about. We're going to pick our Final Four picks, maybe a couple of Cinderellas, some lower tiered seeds that you may want to pick to make the Sweet 16, and then we got some early exits. Who are the top seeds that's going to go out in that first weekend? We've also got, and then we're going to pick a national champion. We picked a couple national champions last couple of weeks, but after seeing the brackets, things are kind of set in stone a little bit, and we can kind of see every person's path on how they can get to the national championship. So we're going to start with my boy David. He is going to take over the West region of the bracket. David, what you got about the West?
All right, I got the Wild Wild West, boys. I think this one is it's headlined by Zaga at the 1 seed. We got Duke coming in at the 2, Texas Tech 3, Arkansas's the 4, UConn's the 5, and so on. I'm not going to touch them all. Jumping in the first game, we got Gonzaga versus Georgia State. I think this one's a no-doubter. Zaga is just too much. I think it's going to be a huge blowout. History is not going to be made. Second number 1 seed to get knocked out the first night. So we're going to move on. So the second game will be Boise State and Memphis. I really like Boise State, but I think Penny Hardaway he's got Memphis rolling right now. I mean, they lost today to Houston in the AAC championship. But I think Memphis Boise State really hasn't played too many teams from my brief research. So I think Memphis handles them. Then we have UConn versus New Mexico State. I was tempted to take the 12-5 upset, but I think I'm going to roll with UConn. UConn has a really good resume where they have a lot of good wins. Just rattling off some of them. They've beaten Villanova, Marquette, and the big one is Auburn. So I'm kind of impressed with who they've played, and I think they squeak out a win over New Mexico State. Next one will be the Arkansas at the 4 seed versus Vermont, the 13. And this, boys, is going to be my Cinderella pick. Vermont they are hot. They are 5-0, and they are 9-1 in their last 10. They don't really have any big notable wins, but they have played Maryland and Providence. So, they've played some bigger teams. I think Providence, they're a 4 seed. So, but they shoot the ball very well. I think they're shooting like 36% from threes, and they're shooting 75% from the free throw line. I think in this game, it just goes down to the wire, and I think they just keep hitting their threes, and they close it out at the free throw line. So moving on, the next game is Alabama versus the playing game of Rutgers and Notre Dame. I'm just going to pick Rutgers. I'm not going to talk about the Notre Dame game. And then I'm also going to take Rutgers over Alabama. My reasoning for this is, if you all watched the show when we talked about who's going to miss the bus, that was my pick. And I stand by that they should not be in this tournament. I think there are a lot of teams. You're telling me that Texas A&M, I think the NCAA, for whatever reason, has a huge Big Ten bias, and Rutgers had a few good wins. But you're telling me a team that finished 2-3 and 6-4 in the last 10, and they got beat in their first game in the Big Ten, they shouldn't be in here. But for that reason, I know they're going to be a pain in my ass, and they're going to win a couple ball games. so we're going to roll with them. Then we got the Texas Tech versus Montana State. I watched a little bit of Montana State when they won the Big Sky Championship. They're a solid team, but Texas Tech they're very good defensively. I think they have a huge chip on their shoulder with Chris Beard leaving and going to Texas. I think they're just too much. I think they're a team on a mission.
I think Advanced Metrics are number 1 in the nation
on defense.
Yes.
Yeah, they're a squad. I watched a little bit of them last night as well. Then I got the 7-10 matchup between Michigan State and Davidson. Michigan State shouldn't be in this tournament either. I think you all clearly know I'm an SEC fan. I got a UK basketball right there, signed by Coach Gal, so I don't care for the Big Ten. But you're telling me this team is, let me pull up my stats real quick. They are 3-2 in their last 5, 4-6 in their last 10. They are a wet noodle right now. With all due respect to Coach Izzo, Davidson is going to destroy them. I don't even think this is an upset. I think Davidson is legit, and it's just Michigan State's just going to bow out. And then lastly, we got Duke versus Colorado State Fullerton. No way after Coach K chastises his entire student section, he loses a first-round game. But then quickly running through these, second round, I got Zaga over Memphis. I'm going my Cinderella pick again, Vermont over Uconn. I got Texas Tech over Rutgers. And then my favorite pick, Davidson over Duke. Because let's see Coach K have his final goodbye.
I love it.
So then going into my Sweet 16, my Cinderella finds her slipper and she goes home. She goes home for the night. Zaga just probably wears out Vermont. And then I got Texas Tech taking out Davidson, which leads me to my Elite Eight pick of Zaga versus Texas Tech, which I think is going to be a heavyweight matchup. It's going to be a game you don't want to miss. But I think that Chet Holmgren and Drew Timme and their entire cast, I think they're legit. I mean, they've played a lot of good teams early. They have not faltered except for the one time against St. Mary's. At St. Mary's, I think Zaga is my pick to make it out of the West Regional.
Yeah, I don't think a lot of people would disagree with that pick. I think a lot of people hate on Gonzaga because they don't play a conference that's worth playing in. St. Mary's and San Francisco probably the best teams other than them in that conference. People would call those teams mid-majors, but they don't even think about calling Gonzaga a mid-major. So I mean, they've earned it. They've been there. They've been a one seed, forever. They finally made it to a national tournament championship game recently, but I don't think anybody would disagree with that. I think there's a lot of chances in that region for some upsets. There's some bracket busters in there for sure.
Yeah, but I think Zaga, in my opinion, other than Texas Tech, I think they have the easiest path to the Final Four out of the other three, which they're the number one overall. They should have the easiest path.
Right. Yeah, I agree. I like the Duke upset you had in there. This felt like Duke's year. Just Coach K's been there 42 years. He's got the number one draft pick. I mean, they looked so good early in the season. And then that Carolina game changed things. And I'm not saying it because I'm a Carolina fan. I still think Carolina's the first round exit. They shouldn't be an 8 seed. But he lost his last game at Cameron. And then the ACC tournament, they got a pretty easy path. He loses his last ACC tournament. This is not the storybook ending for Coach K. So I like the upset there.
Yeah, I definitely see the cracks forming there. And, I'm a Kentucky fan, so I don't like Duke winning. So
we're going to move on to the Midwest region. And Coop is going to review the Midwest and tell us who he's got coming out of that side.
Yeah, so first game in the Midwest, we got Kansas and the winner of the play-in game. I'm not going to guess who wins the play-in game because after Kansas, they will be going home. I've got Kansas easily in that one. Then we have San Diego State and Creighton. Creighton was one of my teams to miss the bus. Came in at a 9 seed. They did finish the season pretty well, had 3 big wins. I still don't like this team in the tournament because their point guard's gone. They've only been playing without him for about 2 weeks. They don't blow you away on any metrics. And San Diego State is a pretty good team. They have, let me get my numbers here, the number 2 defensive rating in the country. They're top 25 in net, BPI, and KenPom. So I think, they're going to shut Creighton down and move on to that second round game with Kansas. Then we've got Iowa and Richmond. Spiders were a bid stealer right here, Richmond, Virginia. I would say hometown, but I've been here for about 9 months. Good to see them get in. You always like that when those teams get that chance at the last minute, but I think Iowa's too much offense. I don't think they can slow them down. Then here is my Cinderella, the Jackrabbits of South Dakota State over Providence. South Dakota State is averaging 87 points a game. They're shooting 45% as a team from three. They have 3 of the top 10 3-point percent shooters in the country on one team and 53% from the field. This offense is just ridiculous. Providence, 79th in defensive rating, and they've only scored 87 or more than 87 in 2 games this season. One was triple overtime. The other was against Sacred Heart.
I think they're Ken Palm's luckiest team.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. I got the Jackrabbits big in this one over Providence. Moving down.
You're saying big. Okay.
Yeah. I mean, there's a 17-point difference in points per game there. Opposite metrics on offensive and defensive ratings. I think they have everything that Providence isn't good at. And like Dave said, Providence has been lucky in, I think, an overrated conference because of Villanova being good. Like I do think the Big East was overrated. They got 6 teams in and didn't really have any big wins outside of the conference. So South Dakota State big. Moving into the bottom half of the region, I've got LSU over Iowa State. This is going to be an ugly game. These are both inefficient offenses that play extremely physical, both top 10 defense. But I'm going to give the edge to LSU. I think they have a little more balance on the offensive end, and they force a few more turnovers a game. Then the Wisconsin-Colgate matchup. This is the time of year where you really see the stars come out, and I think Johnny Davis is going to show us why he was in the running for National Player of the Year. I don't think he wins it. I don't think he should, but he's going to be the reason they move on in this game and have a good showing in March. USC and Miami. I'm going with the Trojans. I think there's not a lot of length that you see in the ACC, and Miami is not a big team. So the size that USC uses is really going to bother them. Miami's really in because of a couple upset wins. Like, they haven't had a great season. You know, similar to Carolina, a big win over Duke was huge on their resume. Then the last matchup in this region, Auburn, Jacksonville State. Like we said, the stars come out in March. I think, Jabari Smith is going to have a big tournament, and size is going to have a huge impact on these small schools. Jacksonville State's going to have a tough time with Walker Kessler. I mean, if the dude was a school himself, he would be top 50 in blocks. He's averaging 4.5 a game, and there's only like 42 schools that are averaging more than that. Going into the second round, Kansas, San Diego State. I've got Kansas not making it to the Sweet 16. I have San Diego State winning this game.
Alrighty.
So, San Diego State, already said, number 2 defensive team in the country. Kansas has lost 6 games this year. 5 of those were against teams with defense in the top 30. The other loss was to Dayton, who was 45th. Kansas is a Final Four team. I think this is one of the worst, probably the worst 8 seed they could have got just because of the matchup. It's not good for them. They struggle against elite defensive teams, and I think San Diego State gets the edge in this one. Then in Iowa, South Dakota State. Again, I'm going Cinderella. South Dakota State over Iowa. So I will have an 8-13 matchup in my Sweet 16. Iowa plays very similarly. They're high volume offense, 84 points a game, but I think efficiency is the difference here, where the Jackrabbits are shooting 45 from 3, 53 overall. Iowa's at 37 and under 47. So I think those are pretty big gaps. And if you're playing that fast-paced game, I'm going to go with the team that shoots it a little better. And I think the Jackrabbits move on to the Sweet 16. LSU, Wisconsin. I'm going with the Stars here. No numbers behind this one. I just think Johnny Davis is going to put on a show. USC, Auburn. Same thing here. I think they've got that big name player. It's going to be a feature, and USC's biggest strength is their length. I think they play a really big lineup, and against Auburn, your length is irrelevant because they are a big team. Sweet 16 matchup, San Diego State, South Dakota. I think defense versus offense, polar opposite teams. One's running gun, the other's grit and grind, but I'm going to give it to San Diego State. I think they move on to the Elite Eight, and the Cinderella run ends. Then I have Auburn over Wisconsin. This one was tough. Just looking at it, they've both had big wins this season. They both had some big losses. Kind of a coin toss, but I think Wisconsin has been a little more inconsistent than Auburn. So I've got Auburn moving on to that Elite Eight game and beating San Diego State to go to the Final Four.
I like it. There's a lot of lower seeds making it pretty far in that side of the bracket. I do really like Auburn to make a heavy run. Auburn is a team that I think in the end probably could have a really good chance of winning it all. I think they have guard play. They have bigs. They have a superstar in Jabari Smith. One of their best players comes off the bench in Wendell Green. I think they got a lot of pieces there that can help them propel themselves to that national title game. I've seen them play a bunch of games this year. They've taken a hit or two here late in the year, but it's a long season. It all starts off. Everybody's 0-0 right now, and once you hit the NCAA tournament, it's just you got a clean slate. I think that's a team that people should be afraid to play.
Mm-hmm.
All right, moving on to the next side, we have Austin telling us how he feels about the East region.
So I'm going to be upfront that I'm extremely biased for multiple reasons in this bracket. The biggest one being that I'm a huge UK fan myself. But I also think that this is by far the hardest bracket of the entire tournament. And I don't say that just because Kentucky is in it. I think there's loaded teams all the way through. And I don't think it's one of these brackets that's just going to be chalk. I think that as soon as I make these predictions, I think it could go a million different directions in this one region.
Yep.
And my biggest prediction out of this, just not going step by step, but is that Baylor, I don't think makes it to the Sweet 16. I've got North Carolina beating Marquette and beating Baylor in the next round there. So I think North Carolina makes it past Baylor. Baylor's got a huge injury recently to one of their best players. North Carolina's won 6 of their last 7, I believe. Don't hold me to that, but something like those numbers. Just made it to the ACC championship game. Just beat Duke in the, as we talked about in the regular season finale. I don't trust Baylor. They lost a lot of their points from last year. A lot of guys went to the draft. Like I said, they just had an injury to a key player. Just don't trust them. And I think North Carolina's a little hot, and I'm just going to roll with that. Moving on down to the next few games, St. Mary's. I think they play Indiana. I think Indiana makes it past the playing game. And I've actually got one of my 12-5 upsets in the bracket. There's always one, so you have to have one. And I think that Indiana is going to beat St. Mary's. I don't trust St. Mary's, just like I don't trust Gonzaga or any of the teams out in that conference. They don't play anybody good the entire year. So put them as a 5 seed. I don't care. I trust Indiana to get past them and be the 12-5 upset. Moving on down, UCLA, I think, makes it pretty easily past Akron. I don't see them having any issues there. Texas, I think, beats Virginia Tech pretty easily. I don't think Virginia Tech is all that good. They just got hot at the right time in the ACC tournament. They won the tournament, great, but I don't think they're as good of an 11 seed as some of the others in the tournament. So I think Texas moves on there. Purdue, I think, beats Yale pretty easily. Don't see them having any issues. And bottom of this bracket right here is obviously of interest to me because that's where Kentucky's at. The next game is Murray State and San Francisco. I was listening to the guys on TV a little bit when they announced the bracket, and I didn't realize it until they said it, but Murray State and San Francisco are both top 27 in KenPom ratings. Murray State has only lost 2 or 3 games the entire year. Didn't realize that either. And San Francisco has actually been really good this year as well, ranked 21 in KenPom. So on one hand, I can say I don't trust their conference, but on the next hand, I can say that they're good because they're ranked this way. But I think Murray State makes it out of that matchup, and then I think Kentucky handles their first round matchup pretty easily as well. Going up to the top, like I said already, North Carolina, I think, moves past Baylor. And then I've actually got Indiana moving past UCLA right there. UCLA came into the year one of the top-ranked teams in the entire country. Been pretty underwhelming for most of the year. I don't have any reason to believe that they're going to make another deep run like they did last year. Just been underwhelming, and I just don't think it lasts. So that actually puts North Carolina in the Elite Eight of the top half of that bracket. So I know Coop's happy and probably hopes that actually happens. Texas and Purdue. I'm going to be honest, I don't know a lot about Purdue. I know they've got one really, really, really good player, and I know that Texas is another one of those teams that was going into the year ranked pretty high and has kind of been underwhelming. So I think this is just going to be a matchup of, can Texas get hot and be the team that everybody thought they were going to be, or is Purdue's stars just going to outshine? So in my bracket, I've got Purdue making it, and then that goes down to Murray State and Kentucky. And as much as it pains me to say, I do have Kentucky moving on here. But if Kentucky does not turn into the team that they were 3 weeks ago, I could easily see them losing in the second round. And that would pain me, but they have looked terrible for the past 3 weeks. Ever since their guards got injured, they don't look like the same team. Oscar doesn't look like the same player. Ty Washington doesn't look like the same guy. Xavier Wheeler's been out of control, kind of like he was at the beginning of the year. It seems like a team that has peaked at the wrong time. Killen Grady, the best shooter in college basketball, shooting like 20-something% in his last 4 or 5 games. So I'm going to pick them to move on, but I would not be surprised if he gets upset. So that leaves me with an Elite Eight matchup of, I'm going to have Kentucky moving on and playing North Carolina. This is, like I said, an extremely biased prediction and an extremely hopeful prediction because I'm going to have Kentucky in the Final Four. But it's weird to say because I could see Kentucky also losing in the second round, like I said, or going to the Final Four. It just depends on what team shows up. If they show up like they were 3 weeks ago, I think they roll through this entire region, and I think they have a great chance of cutting down the nets. If they play like they have, the last couple weeks of the season, I don't think that it goes this way at all. So, a lot could happen with this bracket. Who knows? It's loaded, but wishful thinking. I've got Kentucky coming out of it, but we'll see.
I think Purdue is the exact same way as Kentucky. They were so hot. They looked great. They were my pick to win the title. And Jaden Ivey has just fell apart. I mean, he looks like he doesn't know how to play basketball anymore. He's leaving his feet before he makes passes. His shooting percentage is just tanked. And, he's that star you're talking about. If he doesn't show up, Purdue could be going home early.
Yeah, that's the way a lot of this bracket, this particular region seems like star-studded and just really comes down to how good the best players play.
So now it's my turn. I'm going to go over the South region. First game, Arizona versus Wright State, Bryant play-in. I think I'm going to pick Wright State simply because I go on vacation to Dayton every year in Ohio. It's really close to Wright State. So I kind of drive near that place all the time, and I'm going to pick them to win that play-in game. But unfortunately, Arizona spanks that ass. First game.
That's the kind of sports analysis you can only get on the Trifecta Sports Podcast. If you vacation close to a school, they are a first-round lock.
You wait till you hear my reasoning. This is how I feel about brackets, ladies and gentlemen. All right, Seton Hall TCU. Seton Hall is one of the better teams in the Big East. I like Seton Hall. I feel like they have a history of doing some damage in the NCAA tournament. I feel like they play in a really tough conference. Big East, some people say, is overrated. I like Big East basketball. There's a lot of history there. David mentioned a couple of weeks back that the Big East is Power 5 when it comes to basketball, and the Pac-12 is kind of at the bottom of the list. So I'm going to take the Big East in this one and take Seton Hall. If I can spell Seton Hall, that'd be great. I really, really, really like Houston. I watched them play Memphis today. I think Ralph Sampson has a really good ball club. They do a lot of good things. They play hard. Houston, I know, is a 5 seed, but I'm going to pick them to go quite a long ways here in this bracket, simply because I feel like they have the ability to get to a Final Four. Especially in this particular bracket, I don't see any powerhouse teams. Arizona, maybe. Again, they're in the Pac-12. when the Pac-12, how many Pac-12 teams are in the NCAA tournament? Anybody have that number off the top of their head?
3.
Do you know how many WCC teams are in this? 3. You got San Francisco.
Mountain West. The Mountain West got 4.
All right, who we got? Houston beating UAB. And we got Illinois taking care of business against Chattanooga. I do like Illinois. A lot of people don't. I don't think they've had a very good end of the season. But the Illini do have really good basketball players. Kofi Cockburn is a big deal. He was in the running for the Player of the Year for a long time. Big time transfer. Going to go out and try to explore his options out there. End up returning to Illinois. But I do think Illinois has a really good basketball team. Although a lot of teams in that conference are overrated. Some people might say Illinois is overrated. But Colorado State, I do like to beat Michigan. I'm going to go with the lower seed on this one, simply because I don't think Michigan is that good. I said that previously. I just don't think they're that good, and I think Juwan Howard is having a tough time there. I do like Michigan most years because they do have good players generally, but I think this is a year where they've had a tough time, and I think they got a really early exit in this tournament. Tennessee is one of the hottest teams in America right now. They are playing lights out. NCAA or SEC tournament, nobody could touch them. Nobody came close. Kentucky had the hardest time even putting the ball in the basket. They were up 14-0 today on Texas A&M. Crushed Texas A&M's dreams of making the tournament. We all agree that the run Texas A&M had, we felt like they should be in this tournament. But Tennessee kind of put an end to that. And Rick Barnes is a very good coach. He's had Kentucky's number since he's been there. I think Tennessee has a really good chance of making it a pretty good distance in this tournament. My first upset is going to be here with Loyola Chicago and Ohio State. It's just hard to pick against Loyola in the NCAA tournament, fellas. I like them. Sister G. I do like Villanova. I think that is a great program. I do like Villanova to go to the next round. Going back to the top, I'm going to pick a really big upset here. I do think Seton Hall is going to beat Arizona simply because Seton Hall is battle-tested. They've had to play a lot of good teams. Arizona's played in the Pac-12. Arizona is 31-3. They've lost 3 games. That's not a lot of games. I think UCLA, and they battled back and forth with UCLA. UCLA beat them once. They beat UCLA here recently. I do think Seton Hall, just simply, it's a gut feeling of mine. I don't think Arizona is going to make it deep. I don't see them as being a pretty heavy favorite 1 seed like you normally do. I have more faith in Gonzaga making it to the national championship and winning the national championship than I have Arizona making it to any Elite 8 or Final 4. Next game, Houston, Illinois. These are 2 really good teams. I do like both of these teams. I think either of these teams could make a run at a Final 4, but I'm going to pick Houston in this one. Simply because I think they're really hot. I do like the way they play basketball. They play hard. I think in the NCAA tournament, you got to get lucky, and you got to be gritty, and you got to be able to grind out games in the end. And I think Houston is one of the best teams in the nation at doing that. Tennessee is going to beat Colorado State. I do have faith in that. I also have Villanova ending the dream once again of Loyola Chicago. We have 4 teams left in this region. We have Seton Hall versus Houston, and then we have Tennessee versus Villanova. I'm taking Houston over Seton Hall, and then I'm going to take Tennessee over Villanova. And then at the end, I do believe Tennessee is going to be in the Final 4. I think they have the pieces. I think they're hot at the right time. Generally, I don't like picking SEC champions to make it very far in the NCAA tournament, simply because it's a long tournament, but they were a top seed. They didn't have to play that many games, so they're still pretty fresh. I think Texas A&M simply just ran out of gas in the SEC tournament. I think they've had to play. I think they played 4 or 5 games because they were such a low seed, and they got to Tennessee. Tennessee didn't really have to work very hard to beat Kentucky, but I do think Tennessee is going to be in the Final 4. So, all right, boys, what's our final four picks as a group? Who we got? We got Gonzaga, Tennessee, Auburn, and Austin had who? Kentucky. All righty. So that's the final four picks. Now, that may not necessarily be our personal final four picks, but that's who we're picking out of the final four in each side, in each region. Now let's get on a personal level. What do you like? What do you not like about each other's picks?
I can start us off. One team that I have not liked at all during bracketology is Houston. So until their win over SMU like 10 days ago, they did not have a quad one win. They had such an easy schedule for the beginning of the year. I don't know that they can, like, I think they'll beat UAB. I don't think they can play consecutive tough games just because they haven't had to see it in that conference and with their strength of schedule. I do think this is a weak bracket. It's really wide open. I mean, to me, like you said, Illinois at your 4 seed is just as good as Arizona at your 1. Like, this is the most balanced at the top level. But that would be the one that moved the furthest among everybody's brackets that I would call out is Houston.
Yeah, in my opinion, the South region is probably going to be, if it's not Arizona and not Villanova, it's going to be some off the wall team that you don't really expect. I can see Houston making it there. I think Tennessee probably has a really good chance of making it. You know, with something like this, you know, in today's time, it could be Michigan. You never know. Colorado State, hell, Chattanooga may beat Illinois in the first round. I think this region in particular is going to have your most upsets and the most people pissed off at their brackets. That's just my opinion.
Yeah, I think the pick I'm going to go with is LSU. They're a top 5 defensive team. They just fired Will Wade, and I think that was premature. You know, we knew about these allegations years ago, and they decided to ride with them. And I think you're going to have the case of a team playing for a guy, and you know they have nothing to lose at this point. And I think they're gonna. I think they shock Wisconsin, and I think they give Auburn everything they want. So that's the one I would disagree with.
Me personally, I don't see North Carolina making it that far. I think Baylor, although with the injury, I do think Baylor handles North Carolina. Now, don't get me wrong, North Carolina can get hot, but I think once you get past, even if they do happen to get past Baylor, I feel like UCLA is going to have something to say about that game right there to get to the Elite Eight.
Yeah, my problem with North Carolina is, you know, the only game I've watched them this year other than the Kentucky game was when they beat Duke. You know, that second half, they ran 5 guys for 20 minutes. So they don't have that depth. So that's the only thing that kind of worries me is, you know, you can win a game with 5 guys. You know, it's been done before, but you know, it's going to be the second game, or they'll have 1 day rest. That'd be my only hesitation for that. But I do agree that Baylor is, they're the wounded horse or whatever you want to call it, wounded duck on the pond or something. They can be picked off pretty easy.
Yeah, I'm really surprised it didn't affect their seeding. But on Carolina, you're right. They had Dawson Garcia for like the first 12 games of the year, transferred from Wake Forest, 6'11", started most of those games at the beginning of the year, and he left for family reasons. Just completely left the team, not coming back, and that killed their depth. They had 4 post players transfer or go to the draft last year, and Walker Kessler being one of them. So it's been absolutely miserable all year to see us have no depth. Armando Bacot by himself and Kessler, you know, on a top 4 team and national title contender.
Yeah, one thing I really like Texas Tech to make a deep run. I would even go as far as saying that in the Elite Eight matchup, Texas Tech and possibly a Gonzaga team, if both make it there, I think Texas Tech could beat Gonzaga. I also think I've given Memphis all kinds of hell on this podcast, but they're a pretty hot team right now. And I think after Imani Bates left, Memphis and Gonzaga are probably a pretty good game, honestly. I think if St. Mary's can beat them, I think Memphis can give them anything they want. I can possibly see Gonzaga making a really early exit.
Yeah, St. Mary's laid a blueprint for Gonzaga. There's differences when you watch games. Sometimes the team loses. Sometimes they get beat. And St. Mary's beat them. They took the game to them. They were physical. They attacked. Drew Timme looked like he was playing with grown men. For the first time. They just absolutely pushed Gonzaga around. So if they meet that physical team, if you can get that out of Jalen Duran in Memphis, then I agree. I think any team that can bring that physicality to Gonzaga can play with them.
100%. That's going to be Chet Holmgren's biggest, flaw as he goes through the draft process. And if they decide he's a number one overall, they're all going to look at that length and compare him to Kevin Durant and say, he ain't going to bang down low with the big boys, though.
Yeah.
With that being said, fellas, we picked our upsets. We've picked some guys that are early exits. We've picked some Cinderellas. Who, in your opinion, has the greatest chance? Can't pick one or two. Can't pick, 2 or 3. Let's pick a national champion. Who wants to go first?
I got it.
Go ahead, Dave.
This one hurts. Boys, it hurts. There is one team, I'm a big UK guy. We all are, other than Coop, that I just don't want to play again. I told you guys about this team a few weeks ago. I think Tennessee wins the national championship. They are hot. They are hitting their threes. They're playing outstanding defense. It's about getting hot at the right time. And Barnes has them. They are a wagon. And I think they walk out of New Orleans with the trophy. As much as it pains me to say, I do not like John Fulkerson. I think it's absolute trash that he is playing his 6th year at Tennessee. Go transfer somebody. Jeez, I'm tired of seeing you. But they're playing so well right now. They handled that SEC tournament. They handled it with grace. And I think that their road of, Longwood, Colorado State, Villanova, Houston, I think maybe Arizona, I think they handled it. I think they're battle tested. They know what they need to do, how to do it. And sadly, I think, in my opinion, Kentucky and Tennessee meet up for a 4th time, and I do not want to play them a 4th time. I hope they get knocked down the first round. I hope I'm wrong.
Well, I'm going to stay on the SEC roll here. Without me being biased, I think Kentucky has a chance to win the NCAA tournament. But I've seen them play some really bad games, and I've seen them go cold shooting. I've seen them get in foul trouble. So, without me being biased, I'm not picking Kentucky. Instead, I'm going with the Auburn Tigers. I do think I've watched Auburn more than any other team other than Kentucky. They play with so much fire and so much grit. They've got Kessler down below. He can give anybody fits. He dunks everything he touches. He grabs rebounds. He blocks shots. Jabari Smith is unguardable. KD Johnson, who I absolutely despise as a human basketball player, he's good. Although he laid a bunch of bricks in their game against Texas A&M. He went 0 for 14, didn't make a shot. He's good. He makes big plays. I think the moment's going to come for him. Wendell Green, great point guard. I think they have all the pieces in the world and all the fire and the motivation to get past the hump, make it to the championship game, and whoever they play is in for a rude awakening.
I saw a stat on Twitter, I think, the other day when we're going through the first couple of rounds of conference tournaments. And if Auburn's going to win the championship, it's going to be an uphill battle because the stat was something along the lines of since 1980, no team that has ever not made it to its conference semifinals has never won the national championship or something along those lines. Yeah. So if they do win it, it would be an outlier for sure.
Yeah, I'm going to go back to one of the weaker regions again, just because I think that matters so much. If you can get easy wins during this tournament, then it just gives you so much, in the reserve, so much in your confidence going forward. And I think the national championship game is that Sweet 16 game in the South, Tennessee and Villanova. I think the winner of that game has the easiest path to the championship. I just don't see Gonzaga winning. I don't know what it is. They're cursed. I just don't know if they'll ever win a national title. And like I said, there's a game plan out there on how to beat them. And Jay Wright is one of the best execution coaches there is in the country. You know, I talked about him a couple of weeks ago. I think he can compose those guys with a fifth-year senior running point to take Tennessee kind of out of the rhythm that they've been in. You know, they can execute their offense against that team. And if they do, then I really like their chances to win it all.
So you're taking Nova?
Yeah, I'm taking Nova.
Tennessee's going to wax them.
Not least. Monet,
yeah, my pick is going to be I don't trust many of the teams this year. I think this is one of the weirdest years in college basketball in a long time. It seemed like nobody wanted to be a 1 seed. So it was just really strange. Usually you can kind of count on 3 of the 4, Final Fours are going to be 1 or 2 seeds. I don't know if I trust any of them. Gonzaga is probably the best team, but until I see them do it, I will never pick them. So it's kind of a weird year, and because of that, I'm just going to go with teams that I trust and that have been solid. And another, like you all were saying with Tennessee, another one that pains me to say is I'm going to go with Kansas. I know Coop had them getting beat in the second round, but I mentioned that they had 6 losses, but their strength of schedule was second overall in the entire country.
Mm-hmm.
They had 5 wins against top 25 teams, and it seems like they just have no issues in the Big 12 ever. It seems like they just walk through that conference, walk through that tournament every single year, and it's not a bad conference. It's not like it's the Pac-12 or the Big East like we were talking about, where it's lower tier. I mean, the Big 12 is, top-notch. Texas Tech, like we were talking about, they handled them pretty easily in that conference championship game, and I really like Texas Tech. So just for that reason, I'm going to go with the team that I think is steady, not super star-studded. Their best player is a senior. They don't have, a huge popular freshman or anything like that, but just somebody who I trust. And this time of year, I trust Kansas. So,
yeah, I wonder. I talked about how Will Wade just got fired at LSU. I wonder because Kansas received like a ton of allegations for their basketball team as well. So I wonder if, Bill Self has his feet feel a little hot.
Yeah,
that would be massive.
That's huge. Also, before we wrap up, I saw something on Twitter while I was eating dinner that said that Mike White at Florida is set to take the Georgia head coaching job.
Strange.
You guys heard that?
Yeah, it's strange.
Seems like a sidestep. I don't understand.
Yeah. I think it's a step backwards in my opinion, but I mean, it was on there. I forget who posted it. It was a verified account. John Rothstein, big guy on Twitter for college basketball. So if he's tweeted, it's pretty much like Adam Schefter, who now looks like an idiot. Wouldn't that be awesome?
Yes. Rick Pitino to LSU.
Ooh, that would be awesome too. Rick Pitino to Florida.
No, I don't want to see him. I don't want to see him twice.
You want to see him at LSU?
I don't want to. Yeah, but we'll see him twice at Florida.
That's true. All right. Any burning comments, questions, concerns before we wrap it up here today?
I think that deep down we all have absolutely no idea how this tournament's going to go. There's so much parity.
We need to put that disclaimer out there.
Yeah,
don't put money on our picks because I made a pick based on geographical location.
Yeah, we want to be bold, make the big picks so that if they hit, we look great. But we honestly, this year, there's so much parity. We've had so many teams moving around that it's wide open, and best of luck to you. Hopefully you can win some money out there.
Yeah, absolutely. Actually, just fade every one of my picks. Just if I said Duke loses, Duke's going to win because I am the worst gambler of all time. So
I would just fade the favorites this year, honestly, because the favorites will still be, 10, 12, 14-point favorites in the first round. I would fade all of them.
Yeah, for sure. All right, guys, we're going to wrap up the show with that. Good luck to all of your brackets. Hopefully your money pools come out in the green. Lots of NFL news we covered. I'm sure there's more to come. If you're watching the YouTube video, make sure you subscribe to the channel. If you're listening to the audio version of the podcast on whatever audio podcast platform you're listening on, go ahead and follow us, like us, download all of our episodes. Keep listening to us. We record every Sunday, and we get it out Sunday or Monday, depending on our schedules. But we appreciate all the support. YouTube channel's growing by the day. We have mostly 3 or 4 videos popping up there every week. Go watch them. Give us a like. Tell us what you think. Tell us what we can improve on. But we appreciate all the support. With that being said, you guys have a great week. We love you. Thank you.